You don't believe in evolution?
I don't know. It's just, monkeys, Darwin. It's a nice story. I just think it's a little too easy.
Too easy? The process of every living thing on this planet evolving over millions of years from single-celled organisms is too easy?
Yeah, I just don't buy it.
Excuse me. Evolution is not for you to buy, Phoebe. Evolution is scientific fact, like the air we breathe, like gravity.
Evolution, the natural phenomenon that has adapted the creatures of our marvel through the unpredictable catastrophes that have ravaged Earth for ages. It has brought towering giants and cunning hunters, both in and out of existence, and acts on distant planets and galaxies with life still unknown. Long thought to be an unperceivable force, permeating through all life, as humans have evolved to become conscious, we have also evolved methods of interpreting, observing, and driving the outcomes of evolution ourselves. Whether it be the result of artificial selection through breeding of domestic animals such as cats and dogs, creation of genetically unique plants deemed cultivars, or unintended changes to the ecosystem due to constant expansion by humans, mankind has now become an integral factor in the evolutionary genetics of Earth's wildlife. But how exactly does evolution work? Despite many misconceptions, evolution is still in fact happening today, and scientists are working hard to provide modern experiments to demonstrate evolutionary processes in action. I think first though, it is important to describe what exactly the theory of evolution is, and why we address it as such. This is where another huge misconception lies for most people, which is they believe that the term theory in science is analogous to a hypothesis. This is not the case. The term theory is more synonymous to a complete scientific model, such as in the theory of gravitation, special relativity, and heliocentrism. This term is not meant to denote unaccepted ideologies or a hypothesis, it is much the opposite. A theory is a term given to an amalgamation of explained and observed processes which demonstrate natural laws and explain natural phenomenon. These processes, mechanisms, or equations have undergone repeat and rigorous observation and empirical testing, becoming a comprehensive form of scientific knowledge made up of many parts. They can also then be used to make predictions and thus be tested further. Evolution being made up a majority of the proven processes of speciation, genetics, and population development. Theories therefore are not mere hypotheses and are not a point of debate in modern science. They are a compilation of the processes explaining widely studied natural phenomenon. What may seem very complex at first. Evolution can be a straightforward process in most cases. It mostly bubbles down to two factors. 1, random mutation, and 2, selective advantage passed on by genetic heredity. This essentially means the process of beneficial genes being passed on to the next generation. These two biological processes are visible in every evolutionary event, mutation serving as a catalyst for change, and genetic heredity linking different species together, creating long lineages of diverse creatures. One of the best examples used to watch this process in action is a demonstration that was held at Harvard University, where a large population of bacteria was exposed to increasing concentrations of antibiotics on a 2x4 table-wide megaplate. This was done to demonstrate the process of evolution through adaptation in bacteria, as randomly arising mutations increase the levels of antibiotic resistance through only a few generations. The megaplate was arranged in 9 columns, with 2 columns with no antibiotics present at each end, followed with a small concentration of antibiotic, followed by 10, then 100, moving in with 1,000, that amount in the center of the plate.
So what we ended up building was basically a petri dish, except that it's 2 feet by 4 feet. And the way we set it up is that there are 9 bands, and at the base of each of these bands, we put a normal petri dish thick agar with different amounts of antibiotic. On the outside, there's no antibiotic. Just in from that, there's barely more than the E. coli can survive. Inside of that, there's 10 times as much, 100 times, and then finally the middle band has 1,000 times as much antibiotic. And then across the top of it, pour some thin agar that bacteria can move around in. The The background is black because there's ink in it, and the bacteria appear as white. First, you see they spread in the area where there's no antibiotic, up until the point they can no longer survive. Then a mutant appears on the right. It's resistant to the antibiotic, it spreads, until it starts to compete with other mutants around it. When these mutants hit the next boundary, they too have to pause and develop new mutations to make it into 10 times as much antibiotic. And then you see the different mutants repeat this at 100. And after about 11 days, they finally make it into 1,000 times as much antibiotic as the wild type can survive. And so we can see by this process of accumulating successive mutations that bacteria, which are normally sensitive to an antibiotic, can evolve resistance to extremely high concentrations in a short period of time.
Through a prolonged series of random mutations being passed on over multiple generations, we reach what is called a speciation event. These are caused by distinct barriers that are formed between populations of a single species, which will inevitably cause the divergence of one population into a brand new species. This is often observed through physical, sexual, or social behavioral limitations that cause a new distinct population of species to arise that is reproductively isolated. This isolation from the initial population is what causes the speciation event, as the new population and initial population are no longer participating in the second step of evolution mentioned earlier, the passing of selective advantage through heredity. Isolation can occur either through geographical isolation, the two populations have been split by a natural catastrophe of some sort, sexual isolation, meaning the two populations are no longer sexually compatible and fertile offspring are never produced between the two populations, or by a behavioral limitation that causes the two populations to not share the same ecological niche or mating habits. Although there are many caveats and processes in the theory of evolution that must be understood to build a full picture, random mutations, genetic heredity, and speciation are three of the fundamentals that are met with the most misconceptions and misinterpretations. If you want to learn more about speciation or build a fuller picture, make sure to click the link right here. It'll give you everything you need to know. Despite how fascinating this demonstration with bacteria is, it begs the question, can we observe short-term evolution in animals? And I can confidently say that yes, we can, and we already have. As humans have built our monuments, factories, and cities around the world, we have significantly affected the world around us. The changes we have made to Earth have terraformed it in a way akin to a natural catastrophe, and so evolution has been given much more to work with in recent times. Many animals have already started to evolve to cope with changes to their environment. Most notably in the past, moths, butterflies, and elephants have been seen to be changing to survive a world dominated by humans. The peppered moth. One of my personal favorite examples of evolution in modern history, it is often employed as an instance of directional color change, referred to as a phenotypic change, due to environmental change or stress. Determined to be in direct correlation to air pollution during the Industrial Revolution, their evolutionary history is classified as an example of industrial melanism. This is an evolutionary effect prominent in arthropods that induces change in the expressed melanin phenotype due to environmental stress. Each case is a prominent example of evolution in modern history. In the case of the peppered moths, their industrial melanism caused a change from the expressed phenotype of white color to black color. This occurred when the trees in their ecosystem began to turn black from pollution during the Industrial Revolution, leading white peppered moths to experience a selective disadvantage on their color. Being white made them easier prey to predators, while peppered moths with a black melanin mutation could thrive and reproduce. Although met with some confrontation on reproducibility of results, the Magirus experiment, performed in 2001 to 2007, has been said to have vindicated the initial study. A perfect example of a sexual speciation event is in the Hypolimnus bellina, the moon butterfly, also referred to as the great or common eggfly. It is a species of nymphalid butterfly, the largest family of butterflies in the world. Found in New Zealand, the male population was under harassment by a parasite, which was determined to be quite likely Wolbachia, that preyed on the male butterflies. This resulted in a rapid reduction down to just 1% male population by 2001. The surprise came when in 2007, on the Samoan islands of Upolu, the male population began to bounce back and develop a resistance against the parasite. What this example of evolution shows is a selective sexual pressure acting on the male butterflies, which resulted in a large decrease in the male population. Likely a small population of males with immunity to the parasite initially existed in 2001. However, by 2007, this small population had experienced a selective advantage for their immunity, allowing them to reproduce without worry and pass their genes on to further generations. This proves that populations can develop immunity or resistances over time, which increases the population's viability as a whole. This is a clear-cut example of natural selection in action and could eventually lead to sexual isolation barriers if this resistance perpetuates and more unique mutations arise in the population. Even more recently, a very depressing new adaptation has been observed in elephants. It seems that since poaching and big game hunting have endlessly ravaged their homelands, a small population of elephants have been able to survive and prosper due to this particular trait. That trait being the loss of their most valuable feature, their tusks. Hopefully this is the one that hits home for most viewers, as the elephants and its beautiful trunk and tusk combo have been one of the most widely admired animals to ever live. It has been widely depicted in history and art for hundreds of years and still remains iconic today. What this new emergence of tuskless elephants shows is that the threat of being hunted by humans has now far outweighed the threat of death from their natural predators. This means that tuskless elephants actually have a better chance of surviving in the wild than elephants with tusks, just for the mere sake of the fact that they won't be hunted as often. Another stark reminder of the insane impact man has had on not just the habitat and social behavior of animals, but as we're also finding now, their morphology. The way that they look, the way that they're formed, and the way that they develop. Now, these examples of sexual, behavioral, and morphological evolution may be enough for some of you. But even with all of that, some may ask, what grander purpose does evolution serve then? And quite simply, it allows life to survive the drastic changes that Earth has gone through. Ultimately, animals will likely survive in some form regardless of our interference, if it is not on the scale of a nuclear holocaust. In a way, the ones we do the most harm with our pollution is ourselves. We're the animals that live in filth and waste by the billions as a result of the horrible decisions of those who came before us. It's also obvious with all these cases that animals worldwide have been suffering from the ramifications of actions only humans have made, but they are not completely helpless. Many already have and may still undergo drastic changes that will help them thrive in new environments and cope with the changes man has made to the earth. With time, we may yet see some struggling species rebound with new adaptations, aiding them in survival while humans come to terms and take responsibility for the damages we've caused. This is not to say that the environment is in an alright state by any means. The sentiment is only meant to point out a silver lining to the countless species already lost. But that's it for me, guys. I don't really got much else to say. Thanks for watching if you made it this far. Would appreciate a subscribe, a like, all that good stuff, and check my channel out for more videos like this. Thanks, have a good one. Oh yeah, make sure to check the description down below for any extra, links, videos, a couple other things I might add down there. So yeah, just check there. I don't even know what I'm gonna put down there. Just thought I'd add that in. Alright, have a good one.